Hey guys, Tapan Sharma here, and in this tutorial we are going to be talking about a new authentication scaffolding which comes with the Laravel 8 called Laravel Fortify. So Laravel Fortify is basically a kind of an alternative to the Laravel Jetstream. So what Laravel Jetstream provides is we get all the front end and back end, all the implementation into our Laravel application. But with Laravel Fortify, what we can do is we can customize the UI that we want to implement into our Laravel application, and the functionality on the backend remains the same like as the Laravel Jetstream. So as you can see here, Fortify is kind of an alternative to Laravel Jetstream, which powers the registration, authentication, and two-factor authentication. And in this tutorial we will be discussing about how we can implement our own views, and then using Laravel Fortify we'll implement the authentication system into our Laravel application, which will consist of the login and registration features. And maybe in the next videos we'll be talking about the password reset and email verification functionalities as well. So let's go to our terminal and first create a new project. So Laravel new, and I'll name it Laravel underscore Fortify, and this will automatically get the latest version of Laravel. Okay, I already created that name, so let's create it with another name as Fortify, and I'll resume the video when the installation completes. So our Laravel application has been successfully installed, and our next step is to install Laravel Fortify. So let's go to the GitHub page and copy the composer command to install Laravel Fortify. Let's get to our command. Okay, we can also go to the Visual Studio Code and install it from there. So open the Visual Studio Code. Let me just zoom it a little bit. Open up our terminal and paste the command and hit enter. So again, using the power of video editing, I'll come back as soon as the installation finishes. So our Laravel Fortify package has been successfully installed, and our next step is to publish the vendor files. So paste that, and for some reason the publishing command is not working here. So as I click it, we are getting an error of unable to locate publishable resources. So what we can do is, the alternative way is to type php artisan vendor publish, and we get a list of files that we can publish. So what we want to publish here is we want to publish the we can publish the Fortify config and Fortify migrations. I think these two are the files. So let's hit 12 and enter it once more, and also for the 13. And we also need to publish the Fortify service provider, so also hit the enter 8. So 8, and all the necessary files have been published. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly set up two views, that is login and registration pages, and then we can check the documentation and then implement the registration and login functionality using Laravel Fortify. So what I've basically done is I have created two files for the login and registration, which resides into our auth folder, in our views folder. And these files basically these files consist of the login file consists of two simple input fields. One is for the email and the other is for the password. And we also have the remember me checkbox here, and we have also included the required CSS and JavaScript files. And the other page is the register page. So it consists of 4 fields for the name, email, password, and confirm password. And we'll implement the registration and login functionality by checking the documentation. And so our next step, as since we have published our necessary files, our next step is to perform the migration. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code. And by the way, what I've done is I have created a new database called Fortify, and I have also defined it here, so our migration should work properly. So go to our command and migrate. So our migration has been done. Let's go and check our Fortify database, and it basically consists of these 4 fields, these 4 tables. And our next step is to the Fortify service provider. So the vendor publish command will publish the Fortify service provider, which resides into our app providers directory. So we can see that in our providers and Fortify service provider. So basically in this service provider, what we can do is we can implement our register and login functionality. So in order to so what it has mentioned here is we can customize our requirement. We can customize the functionality as per our requirement. So we can mention what are the features that we want. We can mention here, like we can mention the registration, we can mention the reset password and email verification functionality. So in this video we'll be talking about the registration and login functionality. By default we don't need to mention the login functionality, because if registration is present, then obviously login has to be there. So in order to authenticate, what we need to do is we need to go to the Fortify service provider and add this line into our service provider array, into our service provider file in our boot method. As you can see, it is mentioned here, we need to implement this function into our boot method. So let's go to our Fortify service provider and paste that code here, and it should return a view of auth.login. So our implementation should work fine. We have a folder called auth, and we have a file called auth, file of login.blade.php, and let's save that, and it should work fine. But we get an error here. So let's go to our project, and I have defined a URL for our project that is Fortify.test, and this is our new Laravel application running properly. And I have also defined 2 routes for the login and register. So login will go to /login and register should go to /register. And as you can see here, it is also mentioned that we don't need to define the routes. By default, Laravel Fortify will define all the routes necessary. By defining this function, it will also register the routes for the login and register. So the post method and the get method for the login and implementation, all that is by default comes with Fortify. So you only need to go to this URL to view our Blade file. So I'll just click on this login, but it will give an error that Laravel Fortify contracts login view response is not instantiable. So in order to eliminate that error, what we need to do is we can just copy that error, and we need to go to this link. It has mentioned an solution here. So we need to go to the config app.php and we need to register this service provider first. So let's go to our directory and config app.php and go to our providers array. Let's look at it a bit towards the end, and here what we need to do is we need to register this and save that. And now let's go and reload our page, and as you can see, our admin login view is now working fine. So in order to implement the login, what we need to do is we also need a user. So we don't have any user right now, so our users array is empty. So before implementing our login, we can implement the register functionality. So let's check our register functionality here. So for registration, what we need to do is we need to copy this code and paste that into our Fortify service provider PHP file. So this function should return auth.register blade. So we have a folder for auth and register file, so it should work fine now. And what we can do is let's go to our folder, let's go to our project, and the register route will go to our /register page. So this is our register page, and we have fields for name, email, password, and confirm password. So what are the fields that we need to implement to perform the registration functionality? So here also our register route is already automatically defined by Fortify, and in order to customize the registration, what we need to do is, so the registration functionality basically takes here four parameters. The first is name, another one is email address or username, the third is password and password confirmation fields. So let's go to our register page and define these fields. So the first one will be name, the other one for the email will be email, and for the password, name will be password, and confirm password will be password confirmation. So I'll just copy that and paste it here, and the button type of submit, register, and we also need to define the action that will go to route of register, and the method will be post. And let's also check our routes web.php. Okay, we don't have that, so let's go and check whether it will work or not. So let's give it a name of john@email.com, and I have also implemented some front-end validations using partially.js. And if you don't know how to implement these kind of validation, do check the video out. I'll link the video tutorial in the card above. And okay, let's check our registration function. Okay, I think it worked fine. So as mentioned here, after the registration is completed, what it will do is it will redirect us to the home route. So we haven't defined the home route. So what we can do is we can define a route for home, route get /home, and this should return not retry, this should return a view of what we can do is backend.dashboard. Okay, I have also created a file for our dashboard, so it's basically nothing but a simple admin file, admin panel consisting of some links, okay, and to our home. Okay, I defined some routes here, so I need to remove those in our dashboard. And there's no any file actually. Okay, I think we have the problem in our master file. So what we can do is, yeah, this one. So let me just comment this and reload our browser. Okay, now we are redirected back, and let's also check the database whether the user has been created or not. Okay, we have a user where the name is John, email is john@email.com, password is encrypted. Okay, our registration functionality is working now, and our next step is to check for the, okay, let's try one more thing. What we can do is we can apply the auth middleware into our dashboard, so we can check that whether our auth functionality is working or not. So let's go to the web and apply a middleware for auth. Save that and reload. So now our home page shouldn't load if the user is not logged in, but in our case we have registered the user, so it should work fine, and it's working fine now. And our next step is to create our login functionality. So let's go to our home and go to logout. I think this should also work fine. Okay, for some reason this thing is not working. And what we can do to log out, let's check our documentation. Email verification. Okay, there's nothing given for logout. So what we can do is, as soon as we go to the home route, what we can do is we can log the user out using auth logout. And now let's refresh this page. Let's go to the home. Okay, let's reload, and now our login and registration pages are working. So let's undo that so that we go to the dashboard file as soon as our login is successful. So login, and okay, what we also need to do is we need to, for our login function, we need to implement this, and I think we have already implemented that. Okay, this is fine. And let's try with our registered user, john@email.com, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Click on sign in. Okay, for some reason, okay, I didn't implement the functionality for this, so the form action should be route login, and the method should be post, and the CSRF field is mandatory, so don't forget to include that. And also reload our page, go to the login, john@email.com, click on sign in. And okay, one more thing, that is we need to specify the name property, name and password. And how do I know that? Because I checked the documentation, so it should match the username email address or username, and a password. So we need these two fields in order to implement our login functionality. So let's also reload it once again, and john@email.com and sign in. And now we are redirected back to the home page, to the dashboard. So our login functionality is also working fine. And by the way, what we can also do is we can customize our user authentication. So in cases where we have multiple users type, like if you have admin and users, and in such cases, if you want to redirect one user to the front end URL and the other to the dashboard, then in that cases we can also implement our custom authentication. So for that, what we need to do is we need to implement this function. So authenticate using function into our Fortify service provider, and let's paste it here. So Fortify authenticate using, which takes a function, and what it will do is it will just query for the user with this email, and if it finds that user, then it will check the password and then return the user. So we need to import these two files, app models user and hash. Okay, and also the request, which is Symfony component HTTP. Okay, let's check it. Okay, this one, copy and paste that here, and it should work fine now. Okay, let's once again go to the web.php and log our user out. Okay, what kind of error is this? And we forgot to implement our semicolon here. Now again, let's reload the page, and now we are logged out. So let's go to the web.php, comment that, uncomment this, and let's go to the fortify.test, and again click on login and click enter, and now we are redirected back again to the home route. So we can actually, I think I need to work on it a little bit. So implementing, if we have multiple kinds of users and redirecting the user to different routes. So by default, what it does is it will redirect us to the, okay, it is mentioned here where it will redirect after successful redirection. So it will redirect us to where it was. Okay, let's search for home, and yes, Fortify configuration file. So we have a Fortify configuration file in our config fortify.php, and in here we have a home route defined. So for home, it will go to route service provider home, and here we have defined that home. So after successful registration and login, it will redirect us to this route. So we can change that from here, and probably in the next video we'll be talking about the password reset and email verification functionality. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you like this video and you understood how we can implement Fortify into our Laravel application. And if you like the video, do subscribe to my channel to stay updated about future releases. And until next time, have a great day and see you in the next one.